Hi, welcome to this video in which we introduce the contents of Chapter 14, which involve inferences used in comparing two means. Primarily, as you will see in the whiteboard notes, there are 6 different treatments of this particular type in Chapter 14. 3 have to do with confidence intervals, and 3 have to do with hypothesis tests. In every single instance, we're trying to compare what happens on average in one population group to another. And what makes these 6 different cases unique will be the assumptions made in each of the 3 different possible scenarios, be it that we are building confidence intervals or be it that we're testing hypothesis. In each instance, analysis of variance or ANOVA is critical at either reaching a conclusion of rejecting the null hypothesis or not in the hypothesis testing cases, as well as building the lower and upper limits of a confidence interval in the case of differences between two means. These 3 different possible scenarios are: we may assume that the 2 samples come from 2 distinct populations. They're independent as well, in which case the variance of the difference between the 2 means will be treated differently, will result in the variance of the first and second components being added together for the average situation in each case. That's actually the simplest of the 3 types of variance computations. We won't have to worry about making these complex computations arithmetically by hand, because StatCrunch will enable you to calculate these variances as well as their respective degrees of freedom. The second instance in which we will be computing confidence intervals and testing hypotheses is when the assumption is not that the 2 samples come from independent sources, but rather that they actually come from the same source and are assumed to be equal, therefore, in their variation. Such a case requires that we first compute an average variation between the 2 samples. So we do this weighted average process of calculating 2 separate sample variances and averaging them. And then we use that pooled variance in each of the 2 components on the same formula as in step 1. In the case of using StatCrunch, as you'll see in some of the examples that are going to be presented in videos in this particular module for chapter 14, you will note that we're going to use stat-tstats 2 samples with summary primarily as the command in StatCrunch. And the pooled variance calculation will be an option that you just mark a little box in the software and the mathematics, the arithmetics get worked out for you. The third and final instance of content in testing hypotheses or building confidence intervals about the difference between the 2 means of either 2 separate or populations or a pooled situation in which 2 samples are assumed to come from the same population is when we have paired data. And this application is used oftentimes in situations where we're measuring within the same grouping something happening before some treatment and after some treatment. So it's used a lot in experimental settings, and it's a very valuable type of inference procedure where we calculate 2 averages before and after. In that case, the calculation will employ your well-known stat-tstats 1 sample with data command, where the data is created in StatCrunch by using the data compute expression, and we, on a point-by-point basis, do the computation of the difference between one column and another of data. We will see 6 video examples of demonstrating these 6 problems that should help facilitate your completion of Lab 14 and the project or exam 14. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you find it useful. I hope this helps you succeed in understanding the content, but also in knowing how to apply it in very valuable ways.